Chapter 4 of Sanditon by Jane Austen. "And whose very snug-looking place is this?" said Charlotte, as in a sheltered dip within 2 miles of the sea, they passed close by a moderate-sized house, well fenced and planted, and rich in the garden, orchards and meadows, which are the best embellishments of such a dwelling. "It seems to have as many comforts about it as Willingdon." "Ah," said Mr. Parker, "this is my old house, the house of my forefathers, the house where I and all my brothers and sisters were born and bred, and where my own 3 eldest children were born, where Mrs. Parker and I lived within the last 2 years, till our new house was finished. I am glad you are pleased with it. It is an honest old place, and Hillier keeps it in very good order. I have given it up, you know, to the man who occupies the chief of my land. He gets a better house by it, and I a rather better situation. One other hill brings us to Sanditon, modern Sanditon, a beautiful spot. Our ancestors, you know, always built in a hole. Here we are, pent down in this little contracted nook without air or view, only 1 mile and 3/4 from the noblest expanse of ocean between the South Foreland and the Land's End, and without the smallest advantage from it. You will not think I have made a bad exchange when we reach Trafalgar House, which, by the by, I almost wish I had not named Trafalgar, for Waterloo is more than the thing now. However, Waterloo is in reserve, and if we have encouragement enough this year for a little crescent to be ventured on, as I trust we shall, then we shall be able to call it Waterloo Crescent, and the name joined in the form of the building, which always takes, will give us the command of lodgers. In a good season we should have more applications than we could attend to." It was always a very comfortable house," said Mrs. Parker, looking at it through the back window with something like the fondness of regret. "And such a nice garden, such an excellent garden." "Yes, my love, but that we may be said to carry with us. It supplies us, as before, with all the fruit and vegetables we want, and we have in fact all the comfort of an excellent kitchen garden, without the constant eyesore of all its formalities, or the yearly nuisance of its decaying vegetation. Who can endure a cabbage bed in October?" "Oh dear, yes, we are quite as well off for garden stuff as ever we were, for if it is forgot to be brought at any time, we can always buy it what we want at Sanditon House. The gardener there is glad enough to supply us. But it was a nice place for the children to run about in, so shady in summer." "My dear, we shall have shade enough on the hill, and more than enough in the course of a few years. The growth of my plantations is a general astonishment. In the meanwhile, we have the canvas awning, which gives us the most complete comfort within doors, and you can get a parasol at Whitby's for little Mary at any time, or a large bonnet at Jebb's. And as for the boys, I must say I would rather them run about in the sunshine than not. I'm sure we agree, my dear, in wishing our boys to be as hardy as possible." "Yes, indeed, I am sure we do. And I will get Mary a little parasol, which will make her as proud as can be. How grave she will walk about with it, and fancy herself quite a little woman. Oh, I have not the smallest doubt of our being a great deal better off where we are now. If we any of us want to bathe, we have not 1/4 of a mile to go. But you know," still looking back, "one loves a look at an old friend, at a place where one has been happy." "The Hilliers did not seem to feel the storms last winter at all. I remember seeing Mrs. Hillier after one of those dreadful nights when we had been literally rocked in our bed, and she did not seem at all aware of the wind being anything more than common." Yes, that's likely enough. We have all the grandeur of the storm with less real danger, because the wind, meeting with nothing to oppose or confine it around our house, simply rages and passes on, while down in the gutter nothing is known of the state of the air below the tops of the trees, and the inhabitants may be taken totally unawares by one of those dreadful currents which do more mischief in a valley than they do arise than an open country ever experiences in the heaviest gale. But, my dear love, as to garden stuff, you were saying that any accidental omission is supplied in a moment by Lady Denham's gardener. But it occurs to me that we ought to go elsewhere upon such occasions, and that old Stringer and his son have a higher claim. I encouraged him to set up, and am afraid he does not do very well. That is, there has not been time enough yet. We will do very well beyond a doubt. I'm just going to stop this and continue the recording in a moment, since my recorder is saying I'm running out of memory. Apologies for that. I'll carry on in the next video, part